Hey everybody, welcome to Harmon Garage. I'm Aaron, and before we get into today's video, I want to first of all, I want to thank you guys. All the interaction with the videos has been great, and I really appreciate it. The channel's growing at a little bit faster rate, but still not quite as fast as I want it to. But hey, it's growing. That's what we want, so we'll keep going with it. And by doing that, we're going to keep going with the t-shirt giveaway. And if this is the first video you watch and you don't know what I'm talking about, I give away a t-shirt every video. And to be eligible to win the t-shirt, all you have to do is like the video, comment on the video, and be subscribed. And then at the end of the next video, when I post the next video, I will do a random comment generator and pick a winner from this video. So like the video, comment on the video, be subscribed to the channel. You're entered for a chance to win a Harmon Garage t-shirt, and I will send one out to you if you win. All right, now that we got that out of the way, a lot of people have been commenting, asking me about the Burnout Truck. What am I doing with the Burnout Truck? Where's the Burnout Truck? When am I gonna work on the Burnout Truck? So on and so forth. Well, the Burnout Truck is right here. It's been right here since, I don't know, since it's been here. It's been sitting here for quite some time. If you're not familiar with the Burnout Truck, go back and watch some of the other videos. I think there's a playlist on it where we modified and lightweighted these doors. We built the tilt forward front clip, which you'll see here pretty soon. And we gutted it, lightweighted the whole thing, which I think that's about all we've done to it. And then I got a video where I assembled the motor for it. So since the last video on the Burnout Truck, there was, this head used to have EGR tubes here, and 3 of those holes had some big old gaudy plugs in them, these here, that were only in about 2 threads and were sticking out and looked terrible. So, and then the other 3 holes had just the nut, or the end that held the line for the EGR tube in. So I drilled them all out and chased them with a tap, and then I went and got these plugs and put them in here. And I also replaced the freeze plugs because they weren't in the greatest shape. And yeah, so not a whole lot, but that's what I've done since the last video on the Burnout Truck. And today on the Burnout Truck, we're going to build, that's right, not buy, we're going to build solid motor mounts, and we're going to install a rack and pinion steering. So this isn't necessarily something that you'll just be able to go do on your street driven hot rod truck, because I'm not necessarily building it that way. There is kits that you can buy. I know, I think Flamin' River makes one, and I'm sure somebody else does. I don't know who or where you can get them, but kits are made to put rack and pinion steering on these trucks. I'm not buying a kit. This is gonna be a race truck and a Burnout Truck. I have this rack and pinion that came off of a parts truck out there, so I'm gonna make this work. So also, this rack and pinion is not good from the accident. It's damaged. So one of the inner tie rods was bent really bad. I heated it up and straightened it out. And I think the gear itself in the rack and pinion is bad. So keep in mind, I'm just doing it this way today in this video for mock-up purposes. I want to get it in there. I want to get the steering shaft ran to the steering column. I want to get my solid motor mounts done. And then this is the Turbo 400 that's going to be going in the truck, but it needs to be built first. This transmission's not good, it's just a core. But we're going to bolt it to the motor and set it in the truck with the solid motor mounts on the rack and pinion. because the next thing that I'm gonna do to this truck, which hopefully will be pretty soon, is put the roll cage in. And I've got front bars that come out to the frame and stuff, so I wanna have everything that's gonna be in the front mocked up in there for when I put those bars in, so I know I got clearance for everything. So that's what we're gonna do. Rack and pinion, solid motor mounts, test fit motor and trans, or mock them up, put them in there. They're gonna stay in there for a while, but anyways, put them in there. So that's what we're gonna do. I know I'm not gonna get it all done today. I'm gonna say I'm gonna get it all done today, and it's gonna take me a week, but we're gonna try to do what we can today, because then we gotta get back on Shorty. I've just been pushing myself really hard on other stuff, and I just needed to take a couple days for myself and do something I wanted to do. And a lot of people have been asking about the Burnout Truck, so here it is. I want to work on it. Much people have been asking me about working on it, so that's what we're gonna do. So I'm gonna get this hood opened up, and we're gonna start looking at some stuff and see what we got going on here. Okay, I got the hood open. I went ahead and got our power steering pump out of the way and our fuel pump. This truck's gonna get all stripped back down before it's done. So all those fuel lines and everything are gonna come out, because they're not the ones we're gonna use. We're gonna run, you know, aftermarket good everything. So for right now, they're not in the way, they're okay. I'm going to pull the motor mount shells out of the frame, because we're gonna use those to make our solid mounts. And we need a mount. So they've just got 3 9/16 or 3/8 bolts that hold them in. So I'm gonna get them pulled out of our way real quick, and we'll clean them up and work with them later. But for now, it's just one more thing I can get out of the way. So I'll pull those out, and then we'll start working on our rack and pinion steering. All right. First thing I'm gonna do is take all this old steering stuff off of here. Gonna take the rack off and take the column, not the whole column, but the intermediate shaft. We're gonna take the drag link, idler arm, everything's coming off, because we're not going to use any of it. Well, I shouldn't say any of it. We're probably going to have to use part of it here, but so. We got all that off. I'm going to get it drug out from under the truck where we can see it, and then we'll move on to the next step. Okay, so you can see I got these all laid out. I got my new rack and pinion here, and I've got my old box and drag link and idler arm and pivot arm and everything there. Well, I don't know how well you guys can see from all the way over there, but I'll measure this again for you so I can give exactly what I'm doing here. So, ball joint to ball joint, I got 62 inches on my rack and pinion, and ball joint to ball joint, I've got about 57.5 on my old steering. So I'm not very good at math, but 62 minus 57.5 is about 5.5 inches. So let's just say it's about 3 inches too long on each side, because that's only taking off an extra 1/4 of an inch and 1/4 of an inch. We should be able to adjust with tie rods. So I think I said ball joint when I was measuring. Tie rod's what I meant. Y'all figured it out. So what I'm going to do for mock-up purposes, I already got somebody working on this for me, but I figured out what threads these inner tie rods are and the length that I need, and then we can modify the tie rods to do what we need to do to get rid of the 3 inches that we need to get rid of. But in interim, for mock-up purposes, to get everything in there and whatever else, I'm going to cut these inner tie rods off, which I might have already mentioned earlier in the video, and you can still kind of see it. This side's bent. You saw that black truck that the motor for the Snake Scout came out of. This came out of there also, and literally the wheel is sitting face down flat on the ground, and the tie rod was still connected to it. So if that tells you anything, she was messed up pretty bad. So what I'm going to do is take these tie rod ends off, which won't work, because here in a second I'm going to bring you in here with the other camera and I'll show you guys up close what's going on. But these tie rod shanks are half the diameter of the tie rod shanks on the Squarebody, and these are longer, so I can't use the tie rods and it's all too long. So what I'm going to do is take the old ones apart at the adjuster sleeves. I'm going to leave it so that this outer tie rod can still be adjusted in this sleeve, but then I'm going to take the other side of the sleeve where the inner tie rod went in on this side. I'm going to cut this inner tie rod off at the length that we need it, and then I'm going to weld the sleeve to the inner tie rod on the rack and pinion, and we're going to put it in the truck. Now, like I said, it's temporary for mock-up with a slight chance of meatball, or who knows. If it seems like it's good and everything's going to work, I might leave it like that, but I doubt it, because I mean, you lose your steering, you lose your life. So we're going to change the inner tie rods. We're going to get a setup that's going to work. But for right now, I'm going to cut it off. I'm going to weld it together, and then we can get this up kind of in place where we need it. We can figure out how we're going to mount it, yada yada, bada bing, bada bang, bada boom, whatever. So first things first, I'm going to get wrenches to take the nuts off that adjuster sleeve, and then we're going to move on from there. But first, I'll grab the other camera. I'll show you all this stuff that I've been telling you we're going to do up close so you can see exactly what I'm talking about, and then we'll get into it. Okay, so as you can see, we've got, we'll call it 2 3/4 inches because I know that's what it is, where the rack and pinion is longer and it's laid out. It's the same on the other end also. So like I mentioned, what I'm going to do, you guys can see this is still bent. I straightened it quite a bit, but it's still bent. Anyways, I'm going to cut this off back here where it's straight, where we need it cut off. And then I'm going to take this adjuster sleeve. I'm going to leave this end with the tie rod on here. I'm going to take this end off, unscrew it from the inner tie rod, slide it over the inner tie rod here that we cut off, and weld it up solid. We'll still have adjustment on this end, and that's no different than the way this is. So basically it's going to be the same thing as it was, only not. Make sense? I hope so. So that's what we're going to do. So I need to, like I said, I'm going to get some wrenches. I'm going to take the outer tie rods and the sleeves off of the inner tie rods, and yeah, and we're going to do what we need to do with the thing about that and putting the thing in the thing, and we're going to have some mocked up steering here at some point. Alright, I got the outer tie rods off of the old steering setup, and I did some measuring and I centered the new rack and did some measuring with that, which I'll show you here in a second. And I think I got it all figured out where I need to cut it and where I need to weld it on and what's gonna work. So yeah, so you'll see I got marks here, one there. I did some measuring, I found center. That's the center of the whole deal. I measured out to that end and I measured out to that end, and when I got it, I had to turn the steering shaft a little bit, and when I got it to where the measurements this way and the measurements this way were the same, that means my rack is centered. So I got that centered. I did some measuring. I put these up here, measured them at the 3 inches that I needed them at, and to the inside of this collar right here sits right at that line where this boot's supposed to be. That sits right there, and that makes the overall measurement of this perfect. So I'm going to drag this outside, drag my chop saw outside. You know what, I was gonna use my chop saw. I think I'll use a cutoff wheel because I don't know if I'm gonna be able to set this up in the chop saw and get it straight. So we'll use the cutoff wheel, drag this outside, we'll get the cutoff wheel, take it out there, we'll get it cut, we'll get a bunch of stuff cleaned up, we'll get it welded together, or at least tacked together, see how it's gonna be, and then we will be able to start setting it up in the truck and figuring out some mounts. So I'm gonna keep doing what I'm doing. Y'all keep watching. We'll get somewhere here in a minute. Next thing I'm gonna do before I spend any more time on this, crap, I was gonna make sure that was gonna fit inside there, but it doesn't. And those are reverse thread, so I doubt we're gonna have a tap for that. So, crap. How far off is it? Just a little bit, dang it. Wish I had a lathe. I'm gonna try putting that collar in my vise and seeing if I have a drill bit, because I think if I take the threads out of this collar on this end and then clean that up a little bit, it'll fit. So I'm gonna run over there, see if I got a drill bit that's that size, put it in the vise and see if I can just drill the threads out of this collar. And I'm actually kind of glad that it's going to be that tight. Excuse me, I don't know why I'm having a coughing fit. Anyways, I'm going to drill the threads out of that, clean this up, slide it over there, and then I can put my bolt back in, tighten it back down on there, and that'll help squeeze this against it. And then when I go ahead and put my weld on it, it'll be nice and tight on there and everything will be good. So let me see if I can drill this. If I can, I'll go ahead and do it. If I can't, then we'll figure out what's next. Okay, I told you guys that these wouldn't slide on here and that I needed to drill out the threads in them, which I didn't have a drill bit that was the right size. It needed to be like 690 thousandths, and I didn't have anything close. So I went over to my buddy's that's got a good selection of drill bits, and he had the perfect size. Drilled it out, it slides on there really nice. I cleaned up the inner tie rods on the rack. I cleaned up where I need to weld on the sleeve, and I came back over here in my drill press and took a 3/8 bit and drilled through the collar, through the sleeve, all the way through both sides, so I can plug weld those and then weld all the way around this end and that should make it really nice and strong. Like I said, I don't plan on this being a permanent deal, but if it ends up being a permanent deal because I can't find what I need, then I want to make sure it's strong and it doesn't break and hurt me or anybody else. So not wanting this to be permanent. It may end up being permanent or semi-permanent. I hope not, but we're going to go ahead and go ahead and get this welded on and see where we're at. So I didn't think about showing you guys this up close before I brought it over and put it under the truck. So anyways, the boot kind of melted itself on here, but you can see I plug welded both sides, and then I welded all the way around the sleeve, which is good and solid. It ain't going nowhere. And by doing it that way and welding that on, I still have adjustment. I still got that much room that I can screw the tie rods in if it's too long. And I've got probably a good 1 3/4 to 2 inches that's screwed into the sleeves that I can screw out if it's too short. So I've got plenty of adjustment to do alignment and stuff like that. And so that should be good. So the next thing I'm gonna do is, not quite sure how I'm gonna get it held up in there, but I'm gonna try to bring the jack over and set it on the jack and kind of jack it up into place, and then I'll put both tie rods in the control arms and get them hooked up so they're where they need to be. And I know that as long as I don't move it, the rack is centered right now. So I should be able to just hook those up, get that rack up in there. Maybe I can get some ratchet straps or big zip ties or something to hold it in place. And once I get it held in place, then I can start figuring out the mounts and make the mounts. So that's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna get it set up and try to get that up in place and get my outer tie rods hooked into my spindles, and we'll go from there. Okay, I spent about 15 minutes probably trying to set the camera up to where you guys could actually get a good view of what I'm doing. And I'm not sure we even made it, so. But what I'm gonna do is set this rack and pinion up on the jack here. Get it up in there. The whole way. There we go. For right now, we'll just set it on top of the control arms. Well, I did something right. I lined up like I planned for them to. So that's good, I guess. Now what I need to do is First of all, I need to raise this up because I have it sitting on the lower control arms, and we don't want it to do that because we want everything to have room to move. And I need to, I think my marks are on the opposite side of this. Well, there's my mark right there. Try not to stick my butt in your guys' face, but so I need to make sure that this is centered, which my mark's here, and that's dead center of the truck, so it should be good. So I think I might angle that a little bit, I don't know. But it doesn't seem wants to come up. I think that'll probably work right there. So, or not. I've never done this before, guys. I'm figuring this out as I film it for you. So we're just kind of winging it and seeing what happens. I know I'm going to make it work in here. It's just a matter of how I make it work in here, how easy we make it work in here. Right now, this mount on this side is hitting I think what I can do is turn that mount 90 degrees so that it's up instead of forward, and crap, now I got it all stuck. There we go. Alright, well I can take this line off, I can turn this mount, make it mount the other way, which will be fine. And then we'll figure out how to mount this side. And then we'll figure everything else out. So I'm gonna go get a wrench. I'll bring you guys in here in a minute and show you exactly what's going on. But I'm gonna go do a couple things to make a couple things different. Whatever, we'll get it how we want it, and then yeah, you get it. If you don't follow me, don't worry, because I'm not following myself either. But like I said, I'll show you guys in a minute what we got going on. Alright, so this is what we got going on here. I got my tie rods hooked back up to my spindles. I got this sitting in here. And what I was talking about that I told you I'd bring you guys in and show you, this mount right here can spin 360 degrees on the rack and pinion. It moves. Well, on the other truck, it was turned 90 degrees that way so that the bolts came in through the front and screwed into this through the bracket. But because the bracket's so big and the way it sits, it's gonna mess me up. So what I did is I turned this 90 degrees, and then I'll come down and I'll flat plate on the inside of the frame right here, and then I'll just put a 90 or a big piece of angle iron or something, and we'll just mount it from the top down, or from the the bottom up, and then we'll come over here and I'll put some kind of plate here and have it come out to where this can, oh sorry, I'm not even pointing, I'll plate here and then have it come out to where it can mount here, because that's about the only thing I can do. So I'm gonna get this mounted in here, and then we're gonna go to test fit the motor, and the motor's gonna hit it and nothing's gonna fit, and we're gonna take it all out and put the stock stuff back in. But still fun trying, right? Nah, we'll make it work. The only thing I'm worried about is possibly this line hitting the oil pan, and it's just got a whole bunch of useless bends in it that were probably shaped for the other truck, so we can make that line come down and have a hard 90 and reflare it, and it'll be fine. So that's the only thing I'm worried about. If anything, other than that, we've got plenty of room. And we're close to the lower control arms, but we're close to the lower control arms at the pivots. So the pivots don't really move. The arm itself moves. The pivots don't really move. So we can darn near be sitting on it, and it's not gonna hurt anything. I need a little bit of space, but not a whole lot. So I'm going to start making some cardboard cutouts, some templates. That's what I'm trying to think of. Don't mind me, I'm dumb. Templates for the plates that I need. And yeah, templates for the plates that I need. I'll bring you guys back. I'll show you what we got for templates and what I'm doing, how I'm gonna mount it. And then, I mean, that's really putting plates in, mounting it, and then after we get to that point, I have my steering shaft here that I took out of the truck. It's already got a hard 90 on it. This attaches to this. So we're gonna have this come like this, and then we're gonna take our steering shaft, which is right here, and once we get it past these lines that I need to take off anyways, we can have it angle. It'll hit that, and we'll get that hooked up. So I might have to relieve the frame a little bit right there to make room for it. I'm really not sure, but that's another thing that we'll figure out. But I'm liking it so far. I'm really liking it. And I don't know what I'm gonna do for you guys and for me. I don't know if this setup will work with a V8, because this has to go inside the frame rail and come out. And you know as well as I do, on a V8, there's not a lot of room there. But I just so happen to have my trusty daily driver RJ out there that has a V8 with headers in it. So once I get all done with this, I can take measurements and see where I have room and where I don't have room, and so on and so forth, and see if this setup, the way that I'm doing it, will fit into a square body with a V8, because I would like to know, because I'd prefer to have rack and pinion steering, and that way I can let you guys know. So if you have a V8 and want rack and pinion steering, then you'll know that you can do it. So yeah, like I said, cardboard templates, and we're gonna finish this thing up. All right, well, I've been working on figuring out this rack and pinion for a couple hours now, and we finally got her. And to be honest, I'm being a terrible YouTuber today, because I started to get into figuring it out and started making my templates, and I got my templates made and I got my pieces cut out, and then I decided, well, I'll just tack them in and see where how everything's gonna fit. Then I'll do this, and then I'll do that, and then I'll do this, and I just got in the swing of things and wasn't paying attention to what I was doing. And needless to say, the rack and pinion is mounted now permanently. Everything's hooked up, and well, tie rod wise and that kind of stuff, and I didn't really film any of it, but I'm gonna walk you guys through what I did step by step, show you all of it. So we're gonna start with the templates. So this was the first template I made, and it was to hang the passenger side of the rack and pinion. I put a plate, I'll show you in a minute, but there's a plate boxing the frame rail, and then this welds up against that plate, and then these are holes there and there, and then I had to relief cut that for where one of the lines goes into the actual rack itself. So I'll show you how that turned out in a minute. This is my plate to box the frame for the driver's side. This is the driver's side steering rack mount. I made this template. These holes over here where it mount, that hole's where we had the relief cut for the lines to go and all that. I took this over down the road to my buddy's house. He put it in his computer, cut it on the plasma table, so it turned out awesome. And then this was just a gusset that I made to go in between there and there. Anyways, got our templates made, got our pieces made. Came over here. I believe I already showed you guys where I put the steering rack up in here, hooked the tie rods up on both sides. And then here, what I did is I took an old chunk of frame, so it already had that on it, and I put it underneath the original frame. That might still be hot from welding, but that way it overlapped and boxed. And then I welded it solid across the bottom. This is that first template I showed you. There's the 2 mounting holes. There's the relief for the line. It's welded solid on there. And then over here, we've got our plate, same way as the other side, boxing the frame. Here's our plasma cut mount that my buddy helped us make. There's the relief for the lines to hook up right there. And there's that gusset I made to gusset that. Now, I can tell you firsthand, that ain't going nowhere. It's not touching anything. I got daylight all the way through everything. I don't have very much angle on my tie rods, which is good. They're the same on both sides. Everything's square in the frame, everything's straight. Everything's exactly the way it should be. The only thing that may look like it's not that great right now is there's quite a bit of drop. But as you may notice, there's no engine and trans in there. So when the engine and trans goes in there and that sits down, that's going to bring that tie rod up more level. And there's a good chance that we're going to give this thing an altitude adjustment, which would make them even more level, if not perfectly level. So there's plenty of adjustment on the tie rods, in and out, shorten them and lengthen them. And that rack's mounted in there. When I first set it in there, it seemed like it was really, really tight, trying to get it between the lower control arms and the frame, but I can almost fit 2 fingers between the frame and the top of it. And I can fit about the same distance, almost 2 fingers between the lower control arm and the bottom, which none of that stuff moves. So, I mean, the lower control arm moves, but that's where it pivots, so it can't come up, it just rotates. So nothing can hit anything, there's plenty of room, everything turned out great. Only thing I got left to do to make this rack and pinion work in this truck is get our steering coupler U-joint deal put on the rack, and then figure out a way to hook it up to the steering column, which I was gonna change out the steering column and just build like a race car steering column and not have all that. But it's there, that column's not in that good a shape, so why? So this, I've already had the locking bolt out. I've already had that down on there. And you may be able to see, I got a red line right here. That red line is where I need the clearance for this big old boot to fit. And I can't take the boot off and save room, because there's a big old knuckle almost the size of that boot inside that. So I'm hoping I can use my jigsaw and cut that like I do when I do C-notches. And we'll just take the jigsaw and cut that out, and where I welded and stuff, I might have to use a cutoff wheel a little bit, but I'm gonna try to get a nice curve. I'm not worried about it weakening the frame because I still have my C I still have the C on the bottom, and this is all in front of the front suspension. So the only weight that's gonna be on this frame is this front clip. And that front clip does not weigh enough to break or bend that frame rail after I relief cut it for that thing. It actually has more weight on it now than it would if it had a core support and the fenders were bolted and everything was triangulated like it was before I made the flip up hood. But regardless, that hood, this doesn't have hardly any weight to it. I mean, it don't take much to move it. So it's not gonna, before anybody gives me a ration of crap and tells me, oh, you know, that frame's gonna bend and break off and everything else, well, if it does, it's my fault. So it's gonna be fine. I'm gonna try to cut it out with, well, I am gonna cut it out. We'll see what it takes to cut it out, and then I'll show you guys what we got when I get it cut out. Okay, so I got this all cut out. It's not touching. There's a little bit of room all the way around. Everything's good. It's bolted back on. Now what we have here is this steering column is kind of coming out straight. This is kind of coming over to it at an angle. But there's enough play here that I think I can make these two one. So we're gonna see what happens. I'm probably gonna have to take this back off so I can put it on here, which is no big deal. And we'll put it on here, and we'll put this back on here, and we'll cut this off here and put it in here, but it's gonna be too small, and this and that, and here and there, and la-di-da. This might fit in here, but I don't think so. This has a hole where a through bolt can go through. What do I do? I don't know. I'm thinking about it. My biggest thing right now is taking up the slack. I know how I'm gonna hook it up. I'm just gonna put this in here. But my biggest obstacle right now is taking up the slack between here and here. Which, if I bolt it, if I just drill through this rod and put a bolt in, then I don't have to take up the slack, and that'll give me another place that I can take it off, which would be nice. So first thing I'm gonna do is cut this steering shaft off about right here, and then I'm probably gonna mark it all, take this off here, and then I can put this in the drill press, because this is solid. Put this in the drill press, drill through this, put it in here, put it all back together. Or no, I can, if I take this off here, then I can slide this down in here, slide that back on, bolt that, and then put this bolt in. We should be good. And if this thing's ever in a hard front end collision, we still have our accordion snap off dually-roo thing there so that the steering column doesn't go through your face. That would be terrible if this steering column hurt this beautiful specimen. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna mark this, cut it, take it off. Yeah, you get the picture. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna finish this darn steering up, and then we're gonna do something else. All right, I am super excited. I have wanted rack and pinion steering on a square body for like, sorry, I'm getting the other camera set up for this, but I have wanted rack and pinion steering on a square body and talked about putting rack and pinion steering on a square body for like 10 years. And I know you can buy a kit, but it's crazy expensive. I can't afford it. And you know me, I don't go buy the fancy stuff somebody else makes. I take some junk out of the garbage and make it work, and that's exactly what I did. That truck out there was totaled. I don't know if this rack is any good. Like, the tie rod was bent in almost a U. There could be some damage to it, I don't know. But in the meantime, it's in there. I just tested it, it steers. I'm super happy. So I may, for right now, I put the factory bolt back in. I cut this shaft off, drilled it like I told you guys I was going to. Put the factory bolt from this back through there and tighten the crap out of it, and that's tight, it won't move. So this is working in there kind of like it's supposed to. I don't know how long it'll hold up, but from here to here, we're probably gonna have to make some changes, make it better. But in the meantime, it's awesome. It's working. And I'm gonna show you guys because I'm super excited. So I got the other camera set up over there. I'll kind of go back and forth, but here it is. It takes a lot less turns of the steering wheel to go to full lock, and the angle is, I mean, look at that. The angle is insane. It's a lot more than you got with the factory steering setup with the box. So it's cool. We'll go all the way the other way. Got some angle, you can definitely turn right. So I'm super stoked. May have to do a little bit more bracing on the rack itself. It does move a little bit when I'm steering, but in saying that it moves a little bit when I'm steering, it's rubber mounted. Both of these bolts go into rubber grommets, and that whole collar that I showed you guys that turns and how I put the mount that way, that's all rubber too. So it's supposed to have some give. So it may, supposed to move as much as it moves. But I'm super stoked. Like I said, I've wanted this forever. It's bad to the bone. I love it, and I'm excited. Now, the second part of this is I wanted to get the steering in because I want to put the motor and trans in for mock-up, because I'm getting ready to do the roll cage, and I'm going to bring the bars up under the hood and come off of the roll cage with the radiator mount and a whole bunch more cool fab stuff. But I wanted to do this, and now that I got it in, I can set the motor and trans in and make sure the motor's gonna clear that. So I wanted to get that done first. So it's getting late. I'm not doing very good about getting my 2 videos a week up this week because it's currently Wednesday evening and I haven't got Tuesday's video up yet. So Probably not gonna happen. But I am gonna come over here first thing in the morning. Sorry guys, I'm cleaning up while I'm talking to you so I can get out of here. I am gonna come over here first thing in the morning. I'm gonna build some solid motor mounts, and I'm gonna show you guys exactly how I do it and tell you why I'm doing it. And we're gonna set our supercharged, not supercharged, our better than stock inline 6 and our turbo 400 down in the frame rails of that sucker, see how everything fits. So that's probably my wife calling me, telling me I'm out past curfew, but I'm gonna let you guys go. I'll be back first thing in the morning. We'll finish this up. Hey, you guys are still here. All right, I'm back. It's the next morning. I got here early. I already got some work knocked out because once again, I told you guys we're building solid motor mounts, and I've never built solid motor mounts before. So I went ahead and built one side to see if the idea that I had in my head was actually gonna, you know, work if I did it. And it seems to have. And so I'm gonna show you guys the one that I already built. And then I'm gonna go through the whole process of how I built it with you guys, and then we'll get them put back in the truck. So I can't hold on to this one for too long to show you because it's been welded on and ground on and everything else, and it's hot. But I'll show you guys this one real quick, and then we'll get to building on the other one. So here it is. Once again, I'm cheap, don't have a lot of money, don't spend a lot of money. So we took the original motor mount out of the truck and modified it to be a solid motor mount. So it cost me, not counting welding wire and welding gas, it cost me about $9 to make this. Or $9. I'll only have $9 in both of them because I had to go buy the piece of pipe that I ran through it because I didn't have any. So that's that one's done. It's ready to go back in. Yes, I could have ground all the welds down and made it look pretty and all that other crap, but it's going in a race truck for one, and two, if I made it look good, everybody would think it didn't come from Harmon Garage. So we got our other motor mount here. Don't look nothing like the one that I just showed you. Well, kind of not, but yes. So anyways, I'm gonna get set up. I'm gonna show you what I did. We're gonna build us a solid motor mount, and then we're gonna move on. Okay, so the first thing I'm gonna do, because I need to mark where this is, where this bolt goes through, and I made sure this is the driver's side mount. I kept it on the driver's side the whole time so I could build mine exactly the way this one is, and it'll go back on the driver's side. And I did the same thing with the passenger side, obviously. But so the first thing I'm going to do is come over here on the wire wheel, and I'm just going to clean around here up, get the dirt and crap off of it on the sides and on the top, because I'm going to take and mark the shell on the front and back and the top and bottom. I'm going to mark where the center of that hole is going to be. So when we get to that point that I need to know where that hole is going to be, it'll be marked on here. I'll show you that whole process, but in the meantime, I'm cleaning this up so I can mark it. All right, now that I got that all cleaned up where I can mark it, I'm going to take a straight edge and no, I'm not. I'm just going to eyeball it because it'll be close enough. So here's our center of our hole. So I'm going to put a mark right there. Same thing on the bottom. I'm going to come over here on the side, find the center of our hole, put a mark. Come over here on the other side, do the same thing, center of the hole, put a mark. Alright, so now we've got that marked, we know where center of that mount needs to be. So I'm going to show you how to take this apart, and we'll keep going. I'm gonna need, you don't have to use a step bit. I'm using a step bit because it works and I have it. So we got, if you do use a step bit, you want to use one of these ones that's got the deeper steps in it, because the shallow steps won't work to do this. Well, I guess they would, but not as easy as this. So I'm going to take my mount, set it in my vise here, and this center pin is a rivet that rivets the shells together. We're going to go ahead, punch the rivet out, flip it over. Same thing on this side. Punch the rivet out. Now, we got both halves, and it doesn't have the rubber mount in it anymore. So now that we got that done, we need to mark to make plates for the sides. So I've got too much crap all over here. Crap's going everywhere. Okay, so I'm gonna, what are you guys doing all the way back there? Get up here where you can actually see what I'm doing. Okay, so I got half my clamshell here, and I got a piece of metal that I'm going to use. I'm going to lay this out to where I have to make the absolute least amount of cuts because I'm lazy. Then I'm going to take this and I'm going to mark it. I'm going to mark what's going to be the bottom here. And then mark that. Now, you guys might want to get back a little bit now. You don't get hit with hot metal sparks. So, now, obviously, I'm here on my bandsaw. I'm just going to take and cut off what I need. Cut off, and yeah. Okay. Now before I go any further, I'm going to take this piece, set it in here, and it looks like it's going to be okay. I just have to grind the corners that I knew I was going to have to grind. So we're going to okay. Alright, that looks like it's going to fit perfect once we clean it up. And it'll fit good on this side once we clean it up too. So, since I know that, I'm going to go ahead, lay this out on here, like so. And we'll mark that side. And we'll go ahead and cut that out too. Alright, got both of these cut. I just need to take them over and kind of clean them up a little bit on the belt sander, and then we'll move on to the next step. Okay, I got these all cleaned up on the belt sander over there. They're looking good. Now what we're going to do is take this. We're going to set our piece in there how we want it. Like so. And then I'm going to mark Okay, so I made my marks where I marked it out on here. So now I'll just come across my marks here. Like so. And then I got my center point of where my pipe's going to need to be for the motor mount bolt to go through. So I got these, I lined them up perfect because that way they get welded in the same. The hole's going to line up perfect for that. So I'm going to go put these over in the drill press. We'll drill our hole that we need, and then I'll show you what's next. Okay, I didn't have any pipe or tube here or anything, so I went to the hardware store and got this 6-inch piece of 3/8 black pipe. Kind of the best I could do. I knew that it needed to be wider than this, and I didn't want threads on it, so I got it plenty long that I can cut it off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just cut the threads off this end, and then we'll measure how wide it needs to be, and then we'll cut the other end off, and we'll have our through pipe. Okay, got that side cut. Now what I need to do, because we know that this fit tight against the clamshell before, is I need to measure this, and that's exactly 4 inches wide. So I need to take this from where I cut it, come down, measure 4 inches, mark that, and then we'll cut that off. Okay, so now we got our plates here. I gotta clean the ends of the pipe up, but I know they fit. I already checked it. Got our plates, got our pipe that goes through them. So now we just gotta finish it up. So we're gonna go over there to the welding area, and I'll show you what we're doing next. Alright, so obviously I can't weld this stuff looking like this. So I gotta take my little wizard wheel here, and we're gonna clean all this stuff up so that it's ready to weld on. Okay, I got everything cleaned up here now, and we're ready to weld her together. So I take this, and my main concern putting these shells back together making sure I have the 3 bolt holes lined up, or making sure I got all the holes lined up, because the holes where the bolts go through have to be good, or obviously you won't be able to get the bolts back through. So I got that lined up good, and I'm gonna hold it tight together, and I'm gonna go ahead and just throw a tack on here. Okay, so got that all tacked together. Now I know I can still see the marks on this side where I marked my hole, and I saved the mark on here when I ground this down. So I know this goes on this side, and I know it faces in this direction. So that's important to make sure you get it in there right. So I'm gonna just put a couple little tacks on this. If I had a ground hooked up, that would probably work better. Now I want to just look at this and make sure it's all straight and flat with the side. Everything looked good, so I went ahead and tacked it in. Now we'll roll it over and do the same thing on this side, making sure that we line our hole up the same way. Yep, we got it right. Okay, so okay, got those tacked on. I'll go ahead and put this through, make sure everything still fits. Okay, and I gotta make sure I take a really close measurement and make sure this is perfectly centered in here. Not really. Alright, well, before this gets too hot, there we go. We got our sides tacked in, we got our pipe support tacked in. It's fairly close to center, close enough for what we're doing. So now I'm going to turn on the jams for you guys, and I'm going to zap this thing the rest of the way together. As you saw, we got that all welded up. It's all done. Sitting right here. Got our pipe welded in, got our sides welded in. It's still hot. Like I told you when we first started this, when I showed you the other side, I'm not grinding and smoothing all these welds and making them all pretty because it's a race car. I did, however, grind here on the bottom to flatten everything off to make sure it sits flat. But yeah, so that's all done. All right, so we got the rack and pinion done and working. Super excited about that. I've wanted to do it for a long time. We got the solid motor mounts built. They're all ready to go. They just need to be bolted back in. And I know that I told you that the outcome of this video was supposed to be the motor and tranny getting bolted together and put in the truck. Well, I found a problem with that when I got ready to do. I started looking everything over to make sure I had, you know, all my quacks in the pond to do that. And I do not have a transmission mount cross member for a Turbo 400 here. I don't have one at all. And I want to build my own cross member because I feel I can lightweight it compared to what's there. So it's gonna take me time to fab up a cross member, and I'll probably make another video on that, but that might be part of that's probably what we'll start the next video on the Burnout Truck with, is making a tranny cross member, setting the motor and trans in, and then that'll fall into starting on the roll cage, so possibly. But anyways, we're not setting the motor and trans in this video. We got the rack and pinion steering done. We got our solid motor mounts done. And just to reiterate with you guys, the reason I do this is, one, I'm broke and can't afford to go buy all the nice stuff to do it. And second, I know not all of you have huge bank accounts and can afford to go buy. I mean, solid motor mounts I could have got for like 60, 70 bucks. But I spent actual physical money, I spent like $9, maybe 10. So instead of $60, I spent $10. As far as the rack and pinion goes, there is kits that you can buy that come with everything, and they're thousands of dollars. I don't remember an exact figure, and I didn't look it up because it doesn't really matter that much. I got this rack and pinion off of that truck, which I'm, you know, working out a deal with the guy. He didn't just give it to me. So I got the rack and pinion cheap. I made all the brackets myself, which once again, garbage laying around, scrap laying around, made it work. And I'm gonna have to, at some point, redo that intermediate shaft. I think I wanna put another universal joint at the bottom of the column. But for right now, it's functional, it works, and it's cool. So the only issue we could have with it is if the motor doesn't sit down without hitting it. And I know that's not gonna be a problem because the motor that inline six sits up high in there. And I looked at RJ, which has a V8, and if you made, the rack and pinion would fit in there the way that I did it. I measured and everything, and it would go in, it would clear the bottom of the motor and everything would be okay. You just have to make a different shaft to go from the rack and pinion out, because it would, that one that's in there would fit, but it dang near rub on the side of the motor. So you just have to make a different joint coupler. And you could honestly, me and my buddy talked about this yesterday before I permanently mounted everything, but you could take that rack and pinion and roll it back. It doesn't have to sit straight up and down. I mounted it straight up and down because that's the way it was mounted in the other truck. And I had all the pieces and I wanted to do it that way. But if you wanted to, you could take that rack and pinion and roll it back and have more of a straight shot. And you'd probably have to like cut a hole through the frame. Maybe not, but you'd have to go through the frame more over on the side at an angle further back and line up. So I like the way I did it. It worked out great. This setup that I made will work with a V8, which is good because someday the Burnout Truck most likely gonna end up with a V8 in it. But for now, we're gonna do everything we can with inline sixes. And I've got spares. So we're gonna inline six until we can't inline six anymore. And then we'll go to something else. But I'd already did the checks. And somebody won a t-shirt from the last video. Wyatt Garrett, it was you, buddy. Wyatt Garrett, you won the t-shirt. Send me a message with your size, your address, and I will get a shirt out to you. Congratulations on winning the shirt. But if you're not Wyatt Garrett and you want a Harmon Garage t-shirt also, I told you at the beginning of the video, we're giving one away in this video. So subscribe, like, comment, tell me what you think about what I did. Tell me, hey Aaron, I want a t-shirt. Tell me hi, give me a thumbs up, whatever you want to do. Any comment makes you eligible for a t-shirt. And I'm looking forward to sending you one. So Wyatt, make sure you get a hold of me, buddy. And other than that, that's gonna do it for this video. Thank you guys for watching. If it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't be able to do this. Y'all have a good one. We'll see you next time.